I don't ever. I don't, that's not what my husband does.
All right, we good? Okay. It is now 6:01. We'll call this meeting to order and start with the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, welcome everyone to our regular Board of Education meeting, November 16th. And we'll just jump right in here. So it's recommended that the Board of Education adopt minutes from the October 19th, 2022 regular meeting. Do I have a motion? Motion by Clyde, second by Deb. Any discussion, addition, or corrections? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. All right, item number 2, superintendent's report. Mr. Ryan, you have the floor.
Good evening, everybody. I didn't, just before we get started, did Mr. Reed say he wasn't gonna be able to make it tonight?
He did. He's on his way back from Chicago.
Okay,
So when he lands, he's going to call and I'll just put him on speaker so he can listen. So,
okay, awesome. I just missed that. It was
Nope.
communicated. I just want to do a quick update for the Board of Education on the high school principal search. Tonight, we'll be approving the resignation of high school principal Scott Graham. And so I just want to give you a little background on some of the information related to the job search. On December 7th, we advertised the notice of vacancy. Currently, we have no end date for applications. And really, the quality of the candidates that we receive will dictate when we're able to bring hopefully a top 4, potentially 6 to the table to interview for that position. So we're going to keep it open as long as we possibly can. Ideally, we'd love somebody in place by January 1st, but I think that's quite glass half full thinking. So this is a very difficult time of year, as you remember, to find someone that's currently not employed, right, that has the certification as well as qualifications to be able to be successful in that position. But we will remain optimistic in that search. Any questions on that? Great.
Yeah.
Transition to number 2.
yes, please.
I did want to tell you also that we will be considering interim, candidacy. I don't have anybody right now that is available, but we will be considering interim candidacy, and I'll keep the board apprised of that if we do find a candidate. Okay. Tonight's presentation is focused on a 10-week update on those things related to district goals in the district. If you remember correctly, district goals are located, I think, behind me, over here. We have committed to as a district level, right, focusing on the improving attendance, strengthening the professional learning community, as well as improving those academic outcomes. And so, as you remember probably from the summer, every single building developed a strategic plan to support those specific goals within their buildings. And so tonight, you're going to see some of the data that supports growth in all of those areas. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Boyer.
Thank you, everybody. So love to start with a mission and vision that directs our work and highlighting, I think, really what is reflective of what we're going to talk about tonight. So we are striving to become a model organization focused on continuous improvement, really focused on data, collaboration in our teams, communication, and critical thinking. And just reminding everybody this belief system about collective efficacy, that's really what that truly is the belief system that we all come to work every day, believing that we have the skills collectively to move the needle for kids. Okay. Oh, there we go. Do it in both places. The other piece that we all come back to all the time too is this idea of our core values. And I didn't highlight post-pride in our district, but I think we'll talk about that a little bit when we talk about communication. We're promoting an unrelenting focus on meeting the needs of every student in an inclusive and equitable environment, and then fostering that innovative environment that encourages flexible thinking and risk-taking in teaching and learning. Okay, so bright spots, right? This data is like the fresh turkey you're gonna eat next week. It is fresh, from like today, right? So you can look and see at our students who are really achieving those honors, 6th through 12th grade. And we can celebrate their work, as well as the work of their teachers. Excellent. I think you would agree. Great.
Yeah, give them just a sec, just a-
Yeah, the process.
It did. Here's what- Any insights from that data?
Like it's, you know,
Yes.
It's funny
The
how
growth mindset.
the farther down the list you go, it changes from honor roll to high honor roll with a higher percentage of students when you get to 11th and 12th grade, even though it's the same standards. So I guess my question would be, what causes that reverse? You know, obviously, what is it?
Brain
Maturation,
development,
yeah.
maturation.
Okay,
Yeah, for
that's what it
sure.
comes down to.
Yes, they figure it out.
That-
Right.
Okay.
And that is why, we talk about our trip last year to Meriden, why we're really looking at putting some systems instructions in place for 8th to 9th grade, right? Because there is that dip for sure.
I like seeing at the middle school level that over 50% of the students are on honor roll or higher. I'd
Yeah.
like to see the numbers a little higher at the high school level, of course. But I do like the trend where, it goes from just being honor roll to high honor.
That's a huge transition right from middle school to high school, and the biggest transition is sort of necessity of independence. There's a lot of guided work that occurs in middle school, a lot of different supports, and that transition to the high school is a big piece, as just said. Statistically, right, this is a national stat around, the amount of students that do not accrue 5 or more credits in 9th grade are 45% more likely not to graduate with their cohort. Right, so a huge emphasis placed in the 9th grade era.
What would be your goals for percentages at the high school level?
Well, I think what's tough, and I'm sure Jess has a response to this too, is the last 2 years, we don't necessarily have an accurate baseline.
Yeah.
Right, because of the pandemic. So we're gonna use this as our baseline to make some predictions, move forward, set some goals.
I think, since I've been here, this is the first time we have this data now, really, like I said, fresh. So now we're working with our building leadership teams and showing this to students and saying, here's where we're at and here's where we collectively and individually want to be. We've been talking about goal setting a great deal with kids, utilizing our NWEA and the BIMAS screener. So this really just folds into it to say, what can we as a building collectively do? What can we as a grade level collectively do to increase this? So I think once 20 weeks comes out, we'll have a better idea of saying, what's a good goal to set for, 30 weeks.
Jess, at the high school level during their PLC meetings, do they have an opportunity to discuss, as I know we did at Gibson last year, a grade level would get together and say, hey, this is what's really working for my student, and kind of have open discussions about that? Is that something the high school teachers have an opportunity to do to help maybe with those percentages?
Yep, so our MTSS coordinator, Lori Race, is working with so many acronyms, SSST. And as teachers are bringing students to the table to say, I have concerns about Jess, she's not making the strides that we would expect her to, then they do come together on Wednesdays, like at the elementary level, and they have those conversations about kids. We're getting better at it. We're getting better at the systems. We talk about continuous improvement. Today, we were looking at an exemplar video, actually from Meriden. Chris was there. He got to see that problem-solving meeting, and our staff is saying, we like what we're doing here, and this is how we can improve that meeting in this way, shape, and form. So yes, they do, and middle school as well. And they crave that time, quite honestly, because, our new teachers have said this is a huge support, because here we are thinking we're working with Jess and she's, striving. And so to come together and be able to collectively have that conversation and collectively problem solve, it's big. Yeah. Okay, so just reminding you of the goals. So improving attendance, strengthening the professional learning community, and increasing student performance. Okay, so the first piece is we are going to start off by looking at attendance. And I know you've asked in particular, what did it look like before COVID? So this was pulled out of our state's clearinghouse or state warehouse data. So I'll just let you process that for a minute. And then just, like what feedback, what questions, comments. So this is broken down, as a district. So our average daily attendance for September was at 92.1. Conversely, pre-COVID, right, in that September, 96.4. Shucks, I thought I tried. The screen, sorry. And then for October, so we're tracking this very closely. I know this is the work of our it's all hands on deck, but at-risk coordinators, student success coordinators, they're looking at this attendance very closely. And then I just wanted to give you the picture of sorry. Okay, so comparatively at the building level.
Pretty significant.
And I know we've talked a little bit about, excused versus unexcused. Yes, certainly there's reasons to be excused. To me, we're all looking at it like you're still absent, right? Like regardless of why, it's an absence from learning. And when you talk about the last slide where it talked about number of instructional days, there's not a lot of days in each month. It's 16, we're talking about 16 days, 19 days of instruction. And, to look at these, it is definitely a significant uptick from October of 2019.
So can you go back one slide, Jess?
Yes.
One thing I do want to point out, right? This is really apples versus oranges. When you're comparing 22 and 19 data. Because what we can say now for sure is that we have universal protocols in place for how we report attendance. 2019, I can't guarantee that, right? Buildings may have been doing it differently. And so that's a great segue into your attendance protocols.
That's okay. So, again, it's like, okay, so this is staring us in the face. It's staring our teachers in the face every day who, believe me, I know they are saying, how do I impact kids who are not coming to school regularly? That's really, really tough. So, as Scott referred to, we got together as a leadership team and we said, what does it look like to have an unexcused or excused absence, right? So you have board policy that says we have to have an attendance protocol. So, we got together and clearly delineated. Okay, so what constitutes an excused absence, and then what constitutes an unexcused absence? Okay. And then what is our protocol in response to that? I can tell you that our building leadership teams are working constantly to follow this protocol and have been engaged in some very emotional conversations and very powerful conversations with families, because we are really being unrelenting in terms of, uncovering every stone to ensure that kids are coming to school.
Are you noticing any themes in why this is happening?
People are struggling. It's
Parent caregivers are struggling.
right. I mean, if you go back to,
That and they don't have the tools to, especially the older students, right, to get their children to school.
if you look here, it's the older kids and it's our littlest ones who can't, wake themselves up and prioritize school on their own. They need an adult in their life to say, get up, it's time for school, and help them get there. So, in talking with, Jen in particular, obviously she's here tonight, but again, it's really engaging in these very emotional conversations with people and really trying to to problem solve and help them see that school is really a priority.
I have one concern. And
Yeah.
it's coming from me as a parent. I'm just wondering that is there clear and consistent ways that attendance is being taken in every homeroom classroom? Because I'm on YouTube and I'll throw my kid under the bus. He is at school, but he's late to walk in the door. And my one child has been marked absent 10 times in the last month. Now granted, he gets a tongue whipping from me about it because we get the notifications, which I think are fantastic now. But nonetheless, he's still at school. It's not really absent. He just walks in late because he's,
It converts
Whatever.
tardy.
okay,
Yeah.
but how does that get reconciled? Like I get at 9:45, I get a text message and a phone call that says your student is absent, but he's been there for an hour and,
Yeah.
an hour and 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So are those kids that are not getting counted properly, or they're believed to be absent at the end of the years, are they really being counted as absent in
No.
this number? Okay,
So what happens, the way the system works, because it's automated, is teachers are required to take attendance within the first 10 minutes of every class. So if the child is 10 minutes late, right, then I think it's by 8:40, the first poll. The first data poll shifts over to Apogee, and then it takes another half hour for it to sync and then call you. But in the meantime, internally, because it's already been polled by 8:40, the student's not in the seat at that point. The teacher hasn't switched it. It's gonna say absent to you, but in the backdrop, the secretary is going in and switching it to
Okay.
tardy. So that's how that works.
no, that's
Are
great.
there
I just-
some that are missed?
I'm sure
Sure,
there are,
right?
But
Yeah.
I just don't, given the fact that with my one student who's had a whole bunch of these, hasn't gotten to class when he's supposed to. Those, I just don't, I hope they're not reflected in those numbers because that would not be really accurate for our purposes, so.
Yeah, so just so you know, that's the way it goes. I think it's 8:40, that poll, and it can't change it by then it's kicked over to Apogee to then call you. So, what is our response, right? It's establishing that clear protocol and also really providing that training to our assistants, right? Who are inputting it for state aid purposes and for lots of other purposes and ensuring everybody's constituting it the right way. Weekly team meetings with that intervention designated. So those are those Wednesday meetings that Deb, you were referring to. It's the work of our at-risk coordinator who are really. Hi, Brian. So it's the work of our at-risk coordinators who are really developing relationships with kids and with families and really looking at this data and saying, yes, it reflects numbers, but it's also situations, relationships, people. Holding those family meetings that I talked about, and then home visits. So across the district, our folks have gone out on 30 different home visits already this year. Really, again, trying to meet people where they're at. And then our collaboration with community partners. So, behavioral health, child, that volunteers in the community. So really an all hands on deck approach.
So, speaking from my own son's experience, what constitutes, like, he missed a lot more, but he was never flagged. So what defines, like, an at-risk coordinator or one of the staff to reach out to the student to say, hey, what's going on?
So they're looking at, a student is considered chronically absent if they miss 2 or more days in a month.
Right, so that's, but he was never,
Flagged last year. He was never flagged last year.
or this past marking period, yeah. So, I mean, I'm on him, but there's a lot of kids that might be slipping through that crack that aren't approached or. I was amazed that no one ever approached him because I wanted them to.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
I mean, Mr. Cunningham had experience with.
So, I mean, it's again, working toward becoming that model organization where we are ensuring that no child falls through the cracks, right? And that the systems are in place. The next piece is the professional learning community. So I just, really want you to be clear on what this is. So teachers coming together 4 days a week, 30 minutes a day, really working through those 4 questions. Getting really clear on what it is we're teaching and assessing and really what kids are learning. So more than 200 units have been mapped by our teachers in the last year, which I think is it's awesome. And they're continuing to work on those. Teachers are learning how to develop and respond to common formative assessments. So, say Eric's here, right? He's working with another teacher teaching Algebra 2, they're engaging in the same assessment and really looking at that data to say, what are the trends? What are we noticing about how kids responded to the teaching and what are we doing to shift? Utilizing that database protocol to problem solve in teams for students who are striving, and then implementing a workshop model that promotes a universally designed approach for all students. So what that means is teaching a mini lesson that really, speaks to students, a short, brief, and then allowing them to engage in more of a workshop where kids are reading and working at things that are interesting to them and teachers are conferring. And really trying to think about what are the barriers that kids are coming with and how can we start to remove those. We have a team of early adopter teachers who are working with Mirko Chardon from the Novak group on implementing this universal design in their classroom. We're measuring this utilizing a rubric. So each team is looking at how do we shift more to the right and really strengthen our teams.
Jess, are there opportunities during the month for teachers to have those teacher directed days for other discussion items that they feel are important to discuss as a grade level or?
There's 2 a month.
Good.
Yep. Okay, so transitioning into student achievement. So just to sort of center you on this, there's multiple measures of assessment that we are utilizing right now. And really, I can say confidently for the first year across K-5, we are able to sort of compare those apples to apples from last year to this year. And so if you look at our current first graders, it's NA because they're coming in last year as kindergartners, so they're not quite reading yet, but that measurement, we had 24% of our kids coming in above level. And what I mean by that is that there's a whole sort of progression of proficiency in each grade level. Kids move through levels, so to speak. So what we have determined is our benchmark. We have 24% of our kids in first grade coming in above that benchmark, 9% at, and 67% below. So what I will tell you is that in our earliest grade levels, this is where we see more of the wider gaps. So much of this has to do with sort of the nurturing that occurs from 0 to 5, right? And so who's being read to, who has a bevy of oral language, lots of discussion and those kinds of things. As kids are learning to read, so much of it is about rhyming, blending, segmenting. So you do end up seeing that wider disparity, and you'll see as we move forward that it does lessen. Okay, so by the way, class of 2034, giving them a shout out, right? Seems like it's so far away. Second grade, so they came in last year, and again, I'm gonna talk over it. You can see that last year, 19% were above grade level, and then coming into second grade now, 49%. So significant growth during their first grade year. And then 131 students in third grade, a nice robust grade level, right, Sarah? Sure is. 46% of those kids are coming in reading above grade level, 8% at, and then 34% striving. Okay, and so what we have at the elementary levels is and I guess I'll get to that in terms of response. There's our fourth grade data. Okay, so as you can see, it swells the other way, and then 59%. So Our Fountas and Pinnell benchmark is one measure that we use. We are also looking at this against our iReady data and some of the other pieces that we use. Oops. Okay, sorry, that's. I'm gonna put this first.
Jess,
So,
I'm so
yep.
sorry. Are the classroom teachers doing the F&P assessing this year?
All hands on deck.
Okay.
Yep, all hands on deck. So, you know, when we look at this data here and we talk about, you know, fifth grade, there's lots of things going on here, right? There's students who are needing extension, and there are students who are at grade level, and there are students who are striving. So, working together with the building leaders, we have, you know, redesigned the system of intervention. We invested a great deal in training our teachers in June. So now we have a completely different schedule where kids are working in small groups with lots of teachers across the grade level. So when you go back to that idea of collective efficacy, it is really all the teachers in the grade level coming together and saying, we're wrapping our arms around students. And I've worked in 4 districts, and I can say for the first time, I feel like we've heard the word response to intervention, that we truly have that response. Because when we know that a child is needing something more, we're able to provide something different. And when that's not having the impact that we want it to, we're able to provide something else. So it is a work in progress. And I want to absolutely give a shout out to our building leaders and our teachers, because it is a different way of looking at it. But I can tell you, you know, having grown up through the ranks as a classroom teacher, the way that we were doing it was not working for kids. So we are absolutely believing, not just hopeful, but believing that the setup that we have now is really going to make an impact. I'm looking at, you know, the kids who are above level. I can confidently say they're getting what they need in this setup, because, you know, we're not waiting for everyone to catch up, but we've designed a model where kids who are thriving and need that enrichment are provided that opportunity, and kids who are at and striving are able to receive something else.
So the movement of those numbers, those are pretty big movements.
Yep.
Yeah, should be very proud of those movements. Yeah,
Yep.
exactly. I can't wait to see next year now.
I know.
To see, you know, does that 59 go up to 75?
Exactly.
Yeah,
So
so this
hopefully
is
by the end of the year, Brian, you're gonna see this data again. You're gonna see, we will see that trend. increase.
I can't wait to see the trends. That's exciting.
It is, because then they move on to middle school, and we know how hard that is, right? And so we can confidently say that this number of students is able to go into that situation and really find success and not have to worry about, like, how I'm still learning how to read and still trying to figure that piece out.
Now just imagine if we could get kids to come to school.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So response is, I have to go back to this every single time, is multiple data points. So you just saw Fountas and Pinnell benchmark data. Like I said, I just give a shout out to Lauren Squires, our elementary MTSS coordinator. She's super good with data, and is able to really create these dashboards where we're looking at multiple data points. And then a focus on tier 1. What do I mean by that? It's all means all. It's when kids come in the room. Every single classroom teacher, our special educators, our reading teachers, they're all teachers of reading. And that first experience that our kids get in tier 1 is absolutely critical. So we're continuously focusing on teacher training. You know, we had, like I said, teachers went to something called Wharton Gillingham training in June. And what they're saying is we need more. Great, right? We're ready to provide that. We've made a huge investment in books and libraries in the classroom, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And, you know, kids are loving the books that they have access to in their classrooms. Again, like I just referred to, we have a structure to support the work. It's huge. And then communication with families has been another focus. And so I just want to show you an example of our report card at Perry Brown. So teachers came to me last year and said, you know, we're making so much change with our curriculum. Our report card doesn't reflect the work. And so we spent last year, building leaders, myself, teachers, looking at, first of all, what is the purpose of the report card? And so the first thing we did is just really delineate that. So it's a communication tool for our families, students, and staff that reflects the academic and social emotional learning growth in relation to grade level standards and expectations. And so what they said is our report card as it stands right now isn't cutting it. So this is what families received in prior years at Perry Brown. So a holistic grade for ELA, math, and so forth. And so, working collaboratively with them, I just kind of parceled out some of what you can see in there. But so now I'm a parent or a caregiver, and I'm really able to have a clear idea of the skills that my child is working on and where they are in relation to the grade levels. So it's really comprehensive. This piece here to me is huge. And this looks the same across K-5, the report card now. So parents have that expectation and that continuity from buildings. This over here, I don't really care for the term soft skills, because I think these are like the critical skills that we all utilize every single day, even as adults. But this looks the same again across K-5. So am I able to regulate my emotions and behaviors? Am I able to demonstrate sufficient stamina in academics? Following the rules, using tech appropriately, persevering through challenges. These are all critical pieces. So I just want to say I'm really proud of the staff, because again, this takes work, because now they're coming back together and saying, okay, what are we assessing each quarter? What does that meeting standards look like across the grade level? So those are all big pieces that they worked on. And then the other thing, here I am with my, I'm in the Optimist Club. So the other thing that's on the report card is attendance to date. So out of 40 possible days, just made that up, how many days was your child in attendance? Okay, so that's also reported on the report card. So it gives context. Okay, and I'm just gonna go back a couple slides. Okay, and okay, so this is also fresh as of today. So starting 12th grade, we have 17 students who are currently failing one class, and then goes forward. So now we get together.
Is there a subject that seems to be failed more than others?
So Brian, I just pulled this data today. That's the next piece, is what are the trends? What are the patterns? What are the conversations? What is the teamwork that has to happen?
Gotta be math, right there.
Could be.
Yeah, yeah,
Eric is a.
great question, but that's what we're gonna dive into. Report cards locked tonight.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Jess.
Reflect, right? You remember receiving an email from me, 100 and I think it was 20, I can't remember off the top of my head, 120 students failing one or more classes in 10th grade last year. Significant growth in this area already, the expectations that we put in place, raising the bar. When we're able to communicate to our staff, post Board of Ed meeting, to our community, to our student body, the change in leadership at the high school. Joe, Alger, Lori raised to myself, will be putting out a challenge to all of our students and really bringing this data to light. How can we improve in the next 10 weeks in this area? How can we improve in the area of attendance? That kind of thing. I'm going to bring referral data out. We had 122 classes that were caught last year. Our goal is to reduce
Last
that
quarter, yeah.
last quarter.
Yeah.
Right? How do we reduce that number? Right? Really begin to hopefully empower some of our student bodies to really start to take a look at it.
Which hasn't happened before. So, I mean, we have to start involving students in these conversations and really start talking about what are the goals that we can create. It's not just about us as, leaders and teachers, it's all hands on deck. These kids are old enough to absolutely take responsibility and understand. And then the last piece is communication. And so when we look at, first of all, I just, talk about boasting pride. I have the pleasure of speaking with lots of candidates. And so the idea of using Aptigee for our website and then with the companion app, I get so many compliments from people who on the outside are saying your site is easy to navigate, there's so much information on it, it's very relevant. Which to me is, it's a recruitment tool, right? We're putting a lot on there and we're being purposeful about it. Certainly there's room for growth. So what I know is that from our folks at Apogee, we've had 1,100 and I guess 1,800 downloads for Apple, and 743 on Android devices. So of people who are downloading the NCSD app. And so the new tool that we are linking to this month is you can see here, here's your app, right? So you have your athletics, your social media, your dining, etc. And then what people are going to see is a new toggle over here that says rooms. And by people, I mean families, parents, okay? So we just trained teachers on this. And you can see here, in the next week or so, you don't see it yet, but I love that you're all looking. So in the next week or so, we are going to be promoting the fact that folks' information is up to date in School Tool. Because what happens is the Apogee extracts that text or that email, and they will send a link to families to sign up for rooms. And what will happen is when families toggle over to rooms, they will then see all of their kids' classes. Okay, so I'd be able to see like my son's biology, history, English, etc. And what I see there is the actual Google Classroom stream. So, I can attest, I think most of us have middle schoolers go through, it's a tricky transition. I don't have any homework tonight. So families can go right on there and see, actually, you do. The other really cool part about it is that you can message the teacher right through the app. So what's going to happen is when you go into the biology class, or we can pick on Eric there, you go into Algebra 2 and you're like, I want to check with Mr. Cunningham. You can message him right through that, and he can message you back, and he can fold in your kid. It's perfect. Right on the same stream. So everybody's in the same communication stream. Everybody, I'm talking about mom, dad, child in the same know, so to speak. So teachers can message students through it. They can message parents. Parents can message teachers, but kids can't message each other, and parents can't message each other.
How are we setting the expectation for response time on that?
24 hours.
24 hours in that the parents notified of that when they send their message that somebody will reach back out to you within 24 hours?
That's what we're hoping it says. I have to check on that because I know I use Parent Square, and it's great because it says, expect a response back, by 8 a.m. or something like that when the organization opens. But
The staff's being communicated that is our expectation.
we're expecting that it's posted in their classroom where you can see it, where it'll say, I'll respond to you within such and such time. Yeah,
The staff get a notification that they have a
yes,
message.
they do. And I think, let's be clear though, there's boundaries. It's not my expectation that, you've emailed at 8 o'clock at night that the staff's going to respond back that evening. You can expect that response back the next morning. Okay, or if it's on a Saturday.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'd be clear that it's 24 business hours.
Yeah.
Right.
Not,
Yep.
because again, at 8 o'clock Friday night, I don't expect the teacher to be messaging parents.
No, and the other thing I want to point out is that staff doesn't have to have the app, so it's also web-based. So, if you're a person who, like, sometimes people take their email off their phone, right, because they're like, I just cannot. Right, so the goal is for staff to create their boundaries around, we're not expecting you to look at it on the weekends. But what I love about it is that it also creates a historical record of the communication stream. So that's kept. So now everybody's on the same page.
It's really the he said, she said. Yeah, good. I like it.
And really, from a, return on investment standpoint with Apogee 2, they're responding all the time. They're a growing company. So like they were saying to me, it used to just be, we'd send this link to parents' emails. Now they just have the capability to send it as a text as well. So all the time, they're responding to, you know, societal needs, so to speak, and clients' needs and upgrading. So it's great.
So do I have to have the NCSD app to be part of rooms?
So if I'm a parent, I could also log into this through the web.
I thought you'd be asking.
Eh,
Here, she-
Good. Thanks.
All right, so that is your 10-week update.
Any questions?
I have a comment, while we're on the topic of communication. I love these texts. You know, where, you know, yesterday at 2:57 PM, I got a text that says, where can I find closure, school closure or delay information? Perfect information, great timing. The more that we can do with these texting, I think is great.
Yeah.
It really is. You know, as much as we don't want to be looking at our phones, it's how everyone communicates now, is by text, and to get snippets like that, and that's great information. So, great.
Thank you. I've come a long way, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So this is what this EDU rooms, okay, so spread the message out. That's the link that you'll get. It looks like. All right, thank you.
Good, thank you.
Great. Mr. Ryan, anything else for your report?
Just an opportunity for any questions and
Okay.
insights. Anybody else have anything that they wanted to offer? Is that, in terms of an update, is that too much educational jargon in there, or is it just about right? Is there
No, there was very few acronyms in there.
Okay,
Those are my journalism skills.
Yeah, good job.
but the level, right, is high enough for you, yet drove down far enough to give you a good comparative. Great, okay. Our goal is to provide that at least 2 more times this school year. Okay.
Great. Nothing else, Mr. Ryan?
Good, thanks.
Okay. We don't have anything formal on the discussion item. I was gonna say something about the communication piece in the text at that point, but that lent itself to Jess's presentation, so that's great. Unless anyone else has a discussion item for tonight, we can keep moving. Okay, number 4, subcommittee update, subcommittee updates as presented by the board committee members. I don't know that we have any. Do you have a policy?
We do, yeah, actually policy met yesterday, was it yesterday? Or the day, it was yesterday. Seems longer than that. So we met yesterday, and some things came about that we want to make you aware of that are going to be on the policy agenda for next month. So first and foremost, we had questions prior in regards to if something is a state regulated or a required policy, does it really need to go through the 2 reading step? Clarification was brought to us in regards to that, based upon our own existing policy, is that we do have a policy in place that says that you have to have a first reading and then a second reading for approval. However, the board does have the right to waive the second reading when it sees fit. At the time of the initial discussion. So if we had to, as an example, if we had a state required, legally required policy come up for first reading, we could then make a motion to waive the second reading and approve the policy after the first reading right then and there to save steps, time and whatnot, especially when it's dictated policy.
That vote has to be 2/3.
And yes, that vote has to be a 2/3 vote. That's the key for it to pass. Okay, whereas all other policies have to be majority. So if we went to a second reading with it, it would only have to be majority. To prove on a first reading, it's got to be 2/3. Okay, any questions to that? Good, moving on. We talked about legally required policies. First and foremost, display of the flag. Just a policy we don't have in there right now. It's dictated by the state, the governor, when you're supposed to fly the flag at half mast Every classroom has to have a flag in it. You have to have so many per building, things of that nature. Flying at half staff can be dictated by the governor or the superintendent. That's basically what that policy says in a nutshell. Annual election, district election and budget vote policy. Same stuff that's always kind of been out there as far as that goes, but we need to have it in the binder. Alcohol and drug testing of bus drivers and other safety personnel, again, should be self-explanatory. It's in their contract and stuff, but student voter registration and pre-registration. I found this actually interesting. That you do have to have a policy in place that helps educate students on how to register to become a voter. We have to provide non-specific tools, basically tools that we decide on as to how to help them become a registered voter. Things like pamphlets in the office, maybe a registration table at a home basketball game where kids can register.
Or parent.
Yeah, you can register anybody, but it has to be specific. We also have to offer a pre-registration program for students that are 16 or older, who will not be 18 by the next election, correct?
The one was promotion.
Promotion. Yep.
I love it.
Good. So I found that interesting and we can set those standards. We don't have to follow. There was examples given in the policy, but we can set what those things might be. Okay. Updates to the Parents' Bill of Rights. So this is what we spent most of our time talking about. This is not a board policy. However, it is a procedure that is required to be displayed on the website. The attorney's advice was in this case, because it is out there and it's got to be displayed on the website and whatnot, and it has become more important as time has gone on, that the board be aware of this and have input if necessary on this procedure. Most of the procedure is dictated by state regulations, but what it is the Parents' Bill of Rights in this specific area is it's in regards to safekeeping of personal information and what happens if there's a data breach and what those steps are. There are 5 required steps that have to be in this procedure. We have actually gone a step further and put in 2 extra steps. It also requires compliancy by third-party vendors. So the example that was given is quite often a teacher will say, I want to start using this online system to train or teach a certain subject. They can't do that because we have no way of ensuring or getting the signatures required for compliancy with what is referred to as 2D compliant.
Right here.
Yeah. So again, you may hear a teacher say, well, geez, I really wanted to use this in my classroom, and they wouldn't let me. This is the reason. Every one of our vendors that comes into the school or that we work with the school that may obtain information about our students and teachers and staff, they have to sign a compliancy waiver saying they're in compliant, and it basically says you won't sell, you know, distribute or advertise any of this information.
And we just moved through 2 of these this week. So teachers are responding all the time and saying, we want to use this. We have a process for it. We seek the signatures. Move on.
But it all comes down to 2D compliancy is like the title legislation that requires this. So this is being reworked. There is a number of verbiage changes in it from what our current one states. Really just a lot of cleanup. We probably overstated in the procedure a lot of times. So that'll be coming down, but please do look at that one when it comes out. Make sure you look at that. We also talked about unsafe school transfer. That required some clarification, but really what it is if you had multiple middle schools and you had a student that felt they were unsafe in the current middle school, the process behind how to transfer that student to another building. Because we don't have multiple school buildings, this does not actually apply to us. So we don't need a policy on that. Also, safe mentoring This is really dependent on if we plan to do background and criminal checks for mentors. If we had a mentoring program, we currently don't. We had some things that came up for discussion, and it was declared at that point that they wouldn't be considered mentors, but we were gonna have the attorneys look into that just a little further. But because we don't have an official mentoring program between students and adults outside the school district, we don't need that right now either. Karen, did I miss anything?
Brian, that was on.
I've done.
That was all from memory.
I've done.
Yeah,
You're making the policy
I'm impressed.
interesting.
I know, they're very exciting.
Brian, can
I'm
I,
good with that.
can I expect someone from the policy committee to forward those motions next month to waive the second reading or the legally required one?
We have to do the first reading, then we would make the motion to waive the second reading right then and there.
Okay, so
Yeah.
can I count on someone from the policy committee to do that so that it's worded properly?
Well, I don't see any reason Karen would.
Well, I mean, you were the spokesperson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's only fair that the work is shared.
I mean,
I'll do it.
you guys have done an incredible amount of work so far, and there's a lot more to go, so thank you very much, but yeah. If we can expedite the transition to these new policies that, under the guidance of our attorneys, that's great.
Yeah, and we talked to her, she asked it, so there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 that we talked about specifically the other day. We told her if there's a lot of stuff that's just required, we could probably pound out 15, 16 at a time. If there's a lot of stuff with a lot of, like the Bill of Rights things, there was a lot with that,
Yeah.
just understanding it.
I will provide a written synopsis of what Ryan just said to you in our Monday reflection. Okay?
Okay, so you may see 15 of them at some point or more, so.
I want to see if you can do that for 15.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially if the meeting was yesterday. When I first got here, I was a little nervous. I thought that talking to Pam, I said, geez, am I gonna have to remember everything from yesterday to next month? And she's like, no, you can talk about it tonight. I've got a list for you.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, man.
So you had a list.
I have a list of the policies. Everything else, though, is me.
What would we do without?
There was a list of policies.
I took good notes for that.
Yeah. Plus, I knew Karen had my back with her notes.
See what a good time you missed that?
I missed the meeting yesterday. I'm sorry.
All right,
Yeah, I
Sorry,
mean,
can't support you.
it was riveting. It was riveting.
all right, kudos policy committee, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Community action team, we did not meet, because of conflicts with scheduling and so forth, and really, we don't have a specific direction at this point that we're working towards, so it was supposed to be this morning.
Yeah.
So,
You received the cancellation notice?
Yeah. My iPad's missing that has one.
Okay.
But
and then
Sorry, I
our-
didn't make it. Or was it canceled
it
prior?
was canceled prior. And then we have our
Was it?
building project committee, which that was, how long ago did we have that sit down in here? A couple weeks ago,
Yeah.
it's all blurred together at this point, so I was able to be here for that, so
We anticipate in December providing an update to the.
Yeah,
entire board.
that's-
You won't have to do that.
yeah, no, that's completely fine. I just wanted to say, I was able to attend. Lots of work, lots of things happening and going on with that, so December will have a pretty good update. As that relates, there's a lot of moving parts, as you all might suspect, so. I think that's it. Any other committee updates? That's it, right?
Yeah, because audit and finance didn't meet.
No.
Yes, it's actually.
Okay, we'll move on. So I'll entertain a motion for approval of all the items on the consent item agenda.
Motion.
Second.
Brian Burton, second by Kieran. Any discussion?
Where did the flat screen TVs go? Or,
They're still here.
They're still here. Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're gonna auction them.
Oh,
Any other questions? All those in favor?
I,
Any opposed? So carried. All right, action items. So we have one that's first reading and then several that are second. So I'll go through that. It's recommended that the Board of Education approve the attached board policy for first reading. A 209 purchasing. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Moved by Brian Burton, second
I'll second.
by Clyde. Any discussion or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. It's recommended that the Board of Education approve all the following board policies for second reading. A 408.10 gender neutral bathroom. A 407.2 protection of pupil rights. A 301.14 interpreters for hearing impaired parents. A 302.5 dissection of animals, and A 303.5 significant disproportionality. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Moved by Brian Burton, second by Deb. Any questions or discussion?
Those are examples of things that we could have done that first reading thing with.
Right,
So,
okay. Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. It's recommended that the Board of Education approve the attached resolution authorizing the use of Omnia Partners. Do I have a motion?
motion.
Moved by Brian Burton, second
Second.
by Kiernan. Any discussion or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I forgot. But nobody really asked questions.
It's recommended that the Board of Education approve an overnight trip for the senior class of 2023 to Boston area on May 26th and May 27th. Do I have a motion?
So
Moved by Roz, second. Second by Deb. Any discussion or questions?
Just want to let you know, those that moved it and then seconded it have to chaperone.
It's my anniversary.
Here, I do have a comment. So I did call Mr. Ryan or text Mr. Ryan about this today. This is a perfect example of a policy that this should never come to us. Why would we ever have a reason to have to approve that? And
Right.
the only reason was
Field trip policy,
says it
5 days.
no, yeah, that's correct, but the rule also defines it as overnight. So extended also equals overnight. I think there's 3 layers of there's admin and teachers and all kinds of admin in the middle of this anyway,
You can revise your policy.
so. No, I'm just saying it's an example of one that we need to look at, so. All those in favor? Aye, any opposed? So carried. All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve the personnel recommendations. Moved by Clyde. Second by Brian. Is that a second by? Yep. Okay. Any questions or discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So carried. All right, do we have any public comment over there? No? Okay, so we'll move on. We will be having an executive session that we will not be taking any action on. I'll entertain a motion to enter executive session to discuss matters of personnel, and also we would like to, and we need an invitation. We need, no, all right.
Let's get out of here.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to enter executive session. Motion moved by Brown about personnel. Yeah, second by Clyde. All those in favor?